I'm for Ohio. I don't kiss anyone's ass like him. Ohio needs an ass kicker, not an ass kisser.
That wasn't a Republican. I say that because typically in these types of debate settings, you have a Republican candidate who incessantly and politically kicks the Democratic candidate in the face, while the Democrat pats himself on the back for, refusing to hit below the belt. No, it's time to hit below the belt. And to be fair, I think that Democrat Tim Ryan, in the context of his debate with Republican JD Vance for the Senate seat in Ohio, did a fantastic job finally breaking this paradigm that I think has been incredibly, honestly, terrible for the Democratic Party. Now, I wanna give you a little more of that interaction so you get a sense of just how far Tim Ryan was willing to go to call JD Vance out on how he's just an ass kisser for Donald Trump. So let's take a look at that. I'll give you more details.
Just a few weeks ago in Youngstown, on the stage, Donald Trump said to JD Vance, all you do is kiss my ass to get my support.
And then the New York Times did a fake story today, big front page, that JD wasn't sure if he wanted my support. JD is kissing my ass, he wants my support somehow.
That means JD Vance is gonna do whatever he wants. Mitch McConnell's giving him 40 million, he's gonna do what he wants, and Peter Thiel gave him 15 million, he's gonna do what he wants. And here's the thing that's most troubling about this, lack of courage, is that after Trump took JD Vance's dignity from him on the stage in Youngstown, JD Vance got back up on stage and started shaking his hand, take a picture saying, hey, aren't we having a great time here tonight? I don't know anybody I grew up with, I don't know anybody I went to high school with that would allow somebody to take their dignity like that and then get back up on stage. We need leaders who have courage to take on their own party. And I've proven that, and he was called an ass kisser by the former president.
That was delicious. So delicious, I might want a second serving, honestly. That was incredible and correct. It was correct. The spineless nature of Republican candidates, their inability to actually speak from a place of sincerity, to have interesting policy proposals that are not only genuine, but maybe something unique, something that they've thought of, actual solutions to problems that we're facing in the country. You don't see any real ideas coming from these Republican candidates. And fact of the matter is, they have no principles, they have no values. They are willing to do anything and say anything. For what purpose? For political power. What is the point of running for office, whether it's for a Senate seat or a congressional seat, when you have absolutely no interest in representing the actual needs of the people, the constituents that you're running for? What's the point? Now, I say that because JD Vance, much like many other Republican candidates and current lawmakers, is willing to suppress what he really thinks, is willing to pretend like he supports Trump no matter what, just to accumulate power for himself, just to get elected into office and then do what? Be Trump's puppet? Now, Republican voters might want that. The Republican Party is the party of Trump. And that's why you have all of these Republicans running around filleting the former president in a quest to accumulate political power for themselves. But what does that actually mean? When you take a step back, what does that communicate to the American people in a democracy? That these are not individuals who have any interest representing your best interests. They just want power for the sake of power. And also, I mean, there's all sorts of goodies that come along with getting elected into Congress or the Senate. Means you can trade individual stocks based on insider information that you get through closed door briefings. I mean, it's no surprise so many members of Congress end up becoming incredibly wealthy. That entire system is set up specifically to attract the worst people, self-interested narcissists who have no interest in representing the best interests of their voters. And just to really drive home that point, let's watch what JD Vance actually thought of Donald Trump prior to running for office.
You have to remember, the Republican J.D. Vance was very critical of President Trump during his time in the White House. He would put out tweets making remarks about some of the policies that the president had put out. It wasn't until Vance started to run for the primary that once he became endorsed by President Trump, he changed his tune quite a bit. He even went back and deleted some of those tweets that were critical of the president.
I think, frankly, that's a big problem with Trump, is that he diagnoses the problems in a very successful, very passionate way, but I don't see him as offering many solutions.
I don't see him as offering many solutions. Now, that was one of the weaker critiques that J.D. Vance previously had for Donald Trump prior to running and realizing, oh, if I want to win, I have to completely pretend that I'm a Trump supporter. I have to do away with any values or principles I might have. And I honestly, at this point, I question whether he has any. And as Tim Ryan perfectly mentioned in that answer, I have a lack of courage, J.D. Vance does, and I'm just gonna allow Trump to take my dignity. Because that is exactly what happened during his rally in Ohio not too long ago, where Trump took the stage, took the podium, and talked about how J.D. Vance is just kissing his ass. Trump said that at J.D. Vance's own rally. I mean, have some self-respect, J.D. But I mean, he's gotta choose. Self-respect, principles, values, all the things that Republicans purport to care about, or political power. He's willing to go in the direction of accumulating political power for himself, and it's embarrassing. That's not what strong, masculine men do. That's what weak, power-hungry little bitches do. And that's what J.D. Vance happens to be. Now let's go back to some of the more harsh critique that J.D. Vance had for Donald Trump. What he actually thought about Donald Trump before he realized, oh, well, I'm just a self-interested narcissist looking for political power, so let me just completely reverse my views. He actually referred to, or compared Trump, I should say, to Hitler. This was a message that he had sent in a group chat that included a former roommate of his. And his former roommate felt the need to post it online. His name is Josh McLaurin. He's a Democrat, but he felt the need to share a screenshot of this message, specifically to call out J.D. Vance for changing his views publicly on Donald Trump, specifically for political power. Now, in this message, J.D. Vance, if you read at the end, he says, I go back and forth between thinking Trump is a cynical, a-hole like Nixon, who wouldn't be that bad and might even prove useful, or that he's America's Hitler. How's that for discouraging? But when you're looking for some of that political power, you're willing to launder the image of someone that you compared to Hitler just to make sure that your chances of getting elected into office increase. That's who J.D. Vance is, a coward. And maybe I'm being a little too harsh on J.D. Vance, because the fact of the matter is there is just a massive inventory of cowardly Republican politicians who, behind closed doors, have all sorts of negative things to say about Donald Trump. I should know. When I debated at the Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce event with Ben Shapiro, it's fascinating to hear what Republicans really think about Donald Trump. But they're willing to sell out the country. They're willing to lie to the American people and their voters specifically in an effort to either maintain their own political power or accumulate political power. And that's why we have Congress failing to represent our best interests year after year, election cycle after election cycle, because it ain't about us. The way the system is set up is to attract people who want to make it all about themselves. J.D. Vance happens to be one of them, and I'm happy that a Democrat, Tim Ryan, called him out on it to his face during that debate. We need to see more of that. We need to mock the weakness that we see among these disgusting, craven Republican candidates, because they love branding themselves as tough guys. But when push comes to shove, they're cowards.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges, You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.